Hello everyone, welcome back to another build video for Guild Wars 2. I wanted to make this build video because I'm working on a different build, like a commander leadership build that was suggested to me in the comments of my previous my Doliak Spellbreaker build, which I love that build, by the way. I'm still working on getting Ascended Armor for it, but I had another idea for a build because I'm going to call this the Blade Dancer build, and you're going to see why in a second when I explain it. So I had this idea for a build that basically when the Spellbreaker first came out, I had an amazing time playing with dual daggers. I just love how dual daggers play out, and it is so fun for me to just go and dance around the battlefield kind of like that, and you've got such good sustain, and you're removing boons, and you're stunning, and you're inflicting vulnerability and all that. And you also deal quite a bit of damage as well. So I wanted to make a pretty good build that actually plays off of that a lot, and I hope, I don't think I've suggested this before, this build before, because I don't think I've ever used it before, but I had an idea for it. So we're going to take a look at it. So first of all, equipment. I actually have recently acquired my last piece of Ascended Armor, so I'm in full Ascended gear right now. And this is actually almost completely Marauder's gear. The Daggers, Assassins, and then we've got two accessories that are assassins, but the rest of it is marauders, so you're getting a lot of the vitality there. And then yeah, those are the stats, and we're using runes of the Spellbreaker, of course, because it just it works really well, the precision and power. It allows me to get, with this precision signet, it allows me to get 80% chance to crit, which is pretty good, which means with Fury you have 100% chance. So, we've got that for armor. Briefly, I'm going to talk about the skills. Daggers are the main weapon for here. We've got dual daggers, and they work pretty well. I would suggest, for the second weapon set, I would suggest something else that is dual wielding. So basically maces, axes, or swords are your only options. I would kind of advise away from swords, because swords are condition weapons and they don't do a whole lot of damage. What I'm going with is axes, partially because I already have Ascended axes, and partially because it fits. They're doing a lot of damage, and this is based on doing a lot of damage. So then for other skills, we've got Healing Signet, and usually I don't use Healing Signet, but I have found a pretty good use for it here. We've got Featherfoot Grace, of course, that gives you the resistance, so hopefully you don't have to use Healing Signet for resistance. Next we've got Signet of Fury, which improves precision, and I really like that skill. I really like Signet of Fury, just straight up precision boost, and if you do happen to use it, then you just refill your adrenaline automatically, so pretty good. Then we've got Kick, which is the physical skill, and that gives us our peak performance because we're proccing that. You guys probably already seen this. I use this in a lot of my Spellbreaker builds. It just works really well. So, and then we've got the Battle Standard. I'm not really sure what exactly we need here, but really Battle Standard, Signet of Rage, or Rampage all work, because Rampage procs peak performance, gives you a bit of CC. Signet of Rage helps you get adrenaline even when you're not using the axes. This doesn't have too many problems with adrenaline, but more adrenaline always helps. And the Battle Standard is, of course, the AoE revive. So we've got that. Then for traits, we've got Strength, and we've got Peak Performance, which makes you do more damage when you use a physical skill, which is so good. So you've got the Kick, which is going to help you. It's not going to be quite as good if you're not running Bull's Charge along with it, but you could still proc it every now and then. You just can't maintain 100% uptime on it. So on the longer fights, it's going to kind of drop off a little bit. But then we've got Great Fortitude, and really this is the only thing that's really viable in this line, unless you're wielding a great sword, but it's not really viable to use a great sword if you're going with the whole theme of this build, which is in arms. So, yeah, so Great Fortitude is good for gaining extra health. Next, we've got Berserker's Power, which is very good because you can start getting extra damage output. I've explained this line of traits pretty often because I use this line in strength a lot. But next, we're actually using arms, and that's not something I use very often, but I wanted to try and make a build that uses arms in daggers, and the reason for that is the last trait. But let's talk about the first two first. So we've got Signet Mastery, which is really a cool skill, actually. Anytime you strike a foe, let me see, hold on, gain reduced recharge and grant stacking ferocity, cast Lesser Signet of Might. Okay, it's actually a 20-second cooldown, but the boon lasts for a minute. So, you cast Lesser Signet of Might when you strike a foe that is below 50% health. Okay, not only that, you also gain a stacking, you also gain a stacking ferocity boon, 100 extra ferocity every time you use a signet. Okay, and that's really useful because you got to replace some of that ferocity that you lose when you give up Axe Mastery, because in my Axe build I was using Axe Mastery. And you get a huge bonus. Let me just show you right here. Axe Mastery gives you an extra 300 precision ferocity when you use axes, and you're giving that up. So, so it's important to be able to replace that in some way. And here we have the Lesser Signet of Might. Then we've also got the Signet of Fury. You could also easily use Signet of Might, make your attacks unblockable even more, and you also get that bonus there. And then also Healing Signet, if you do happen to use it, which I try not to use it, because the whole point of it is not to use it. But, yeah, so that's pretty useful for this. Next, we've got Rending Strikes. Now, 33% chance on critical hit to inflict vulnerability. Well, we've got 80% chance to crit with this Signet of Fury, so we're gaining so much vulnerability that we're inflicting on the enemy, which is really cool. Combine that with Blade Storm, which hits 7 times, and you're going to get a lot of vulnerability on your target. And then the last one is Dual Wielding, and oh yeah, I just remembered. Yeah, the last one is Dual Wielding, which increases your attack speed by 20% when you're wielding a main hand weapon and you're offhand. And this does work with daggers. So it also reduces aftercast as well. I did a little bit of research on that. And so, yeah, and so because of that, it just results in a flat increase of 20% attack speed, which just is kind of like 20% extra damage output, assuming you can meet your cooldowns and everything. But that's why for a second weapon set, that's why I so highly recommend that you use a dual wielding weapon like axe, sword, or mace, because it can make full use of this dual wielding trait. So very good. This is kind of like the main part of this build. Peak performance actually plays a back seat in this build, whereas dual wielding is the main part of this build. So this is really, really vital. You don't want to worry about the burst precision and everything because you already have such high critical chance, and of course this is condition damage, and we don't care about condition damage on this build. So, also an important thing to note is that using a burst skill grants you Fury, which is going to give you a 100% chance to crit, which means just a flat out 33% of your hits are all going to inflict vulnerability. So very useful. Next we've got Spellbreaker, and we're running 1-3-3. So we've got more critical damage increase, that's basically ferocity. And then we've got Sun and Moon style, which is good for a passive heal, and it also is good for giving yourself quickness. Quickness does not stack with the dual wielding, so I don't know exactly how much of a boon quickness is. I think it's higher than 20%, but it's not going to stack with it, so it's just going to increase to to 33%. You're basically going to have a lot of quickness uptime, but you are also going to, even when you don't have quickness, you're going to have that attack speed bonus of 20%. And lastly, we're running Magebane Tether for the Sweet Might generation. So that's pretty much it for the skills and the traits. We're gonna go ahead and test this out really quick. Gonna find an enemy to test it out on. These sand sharks. I like this area for testing a little more than the other one with the sand eels. Okay, so you use the Blade Storm, right? Okay, I'm also getting a little lag, but you get the point, right? We've got the passive heal. We're kind of dancing around the target is the main idea. So you see this, we've got the Signet of Ferocity up, and it lasts a full minute, which is really cool. So I think that's good. I think it's and as soon as you have four of those Signets of Ferocity things, you've now surpassed the ferocity that you got from the Axe Mastery trait. So you actually will end up having more ferocity. I wonder what a build that used arms and discipline would look like. We mainly have strength for the peak performance and berserker's power, but you could also possibly swap it out with discipline, right? And then you could do that, and then also take Axe Mastery. And then you've got even more precision. Okay, you get 220%, and then you use a Signet, use another Signet, and then you're up to 233% critical damage. Super good, right? And see, if you look at this, I'm just doing a ton of damage. And it's all area of effect. I should have done the quickness, but even when I don't have the quickness, I'm still attacking that much faster. Look at this. Just a ton of damage. But that's if you run discipline. We had strength, and with strength, you're able to gain the. Well, I'm not leaving combat. But with strength, you're able to gain the actual flat damage increase of 33%. So, you know. But either way, with either build, especially if you're using daggers, you're going to be fitting the theme of this build, which is dancing around the battlefield. So it's that's the Blade Dancer build. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the build, please let me know. Like I said, I'm working on a leadership kind of build with commander's gear, but it takes a long time to get, so I won't be able to show it off effectively until I can get some at least exotic commander's gear. So but yeah, that's really all I have for today. If you want to support my cause in any way, I'll put links to my Patreon and Bitcoin wallets and everything like that. Let me know any other kind of build that you want to see me try to make, and I will do my best. Yeah, as far as anything else, I don't think there is anything else. So thank you so much once more for watching, and I will see you next time.